in general, whether it's the AI disruption, whether it's distributed talent, whether it's working with partners globally, what's some of the things on your mind? We'll start with you, Pablo.
I think the party's over in the sense that, when we get all these new sexy HR tech companies that arrive saying, I was speaking to Mauricio about this, we're going to do EOR. Mauricio told me he's been doing that for the last 20 years. And so what clients now want to see is a big case for transparency. So they want to see really what we're paying the resources, how we're getting paid, because kind of looping this back into the geopolitical stance is that it's no longer a choice just to have a US workforce. We talk about what a modern workforce looks like, and my whole business model, my premise, and the reason why I've been put on this earth is to sell LatAm. Yeah. But what I'm now finding is that it's not a battle now to sell LatAm against Asia or Africa. It's how do we actually build a workforce where it is in the US, working alongside our friends in Asia, and then having a team in Africa and also in Latin America. But obviously what you do have is you can't just enter a new jurisdiction overnight. With all respect to our consultant friends, obviously their fees are not easy. So how does a firm now dip their toe in the market? How do they land quickly? And how can they, not need to just say we're just doing LatAm, Africa, or Asia, but how can we have a workforce which combines all three continents together?
Where are you located? Where are the people you're going to hire located? What's going on in that country? That kind of stuff. And I think we need to have a more of LatAm perspective rather than being focused on each country. LatAm offers great talent, great education, resources who are bilingual and want to grow and want to be part of this industry. Obviously, AI is a lot of top of mind of what's going on and how are we getting prepared for it. So I think right now it's about being flexible, being open-minded of what's going to happen, and just trying to prepare for the best.
Even within the same industry, what some players could see as a real opportunity is a challenge. And there are some things that are clear opportunities for all of us. Let's say, for example, the geopolitical situation, and Eric was very clear earlier today that we have a very clear tailwind from the U.S. point of view for Latin America. That's a clear opportunity for all of us. But when we start talking about things like AI, is it an opportunity or is it a challenge? And it really depends how you're positioned in the industry and what role you're playing in the industry.
For the first time, I always been critical of the U.S. that they always look, let's look in China, let's look this and that. They never look at their own backyard. And right now, this is something that, as they mentioned in the session early in the morning, is something that slowly but surely is happening. And I think we are very well positioned to take advantage of that, especially as we mentioned earlier in different sessions. Now the situation with the H-1B visa, I think a lot of people we need to leave because nobody can afford, $100,000 a year plus. It's not like one time, it's yearly. A lot of companies they're scared about, when you say nearshore, anything south of the Rio Grande, they freak out. They don't know what to do, how I'm going to do it, I'm not going to deal with it. And but slowly but surely, companies are more open. Obviously, time zone is the main thing, where you can, I had a presentation where I talk about Nearshore 1.0 and Nearshore 2.0. When I had the Nearshore 1.0, it was around 3 years ago. So around actually 3 months ago, I spoke about Nearshore 2.0, what's been the main differences. And before, people were looking at, let me hire somebody that's going to be cheaper. And I usually try not to use the word cheaper. I try to use the more competitive, let's put it that way, pricing. But now people are looking at partnerships. They're looking, I can integrate with this team. I can work together. I can make things faster and easier than when I have to deal with somebody where usually it's been China and it's been India. You have to be, I always say, if you're the top talent, let's say in India, you ain't going to work at midnight. You already earned your rank. Either I work 9 to 5, maybe 9 to 9, but I'm working at 11 o'clock at night. And usually, let's say if somebody's in California, you got to talk to your team in India, and the guy is like the top-notch guy. Either you wake up at 5 in the morning, and you are at 5, and the guy's at 11 o'clock at night. Doesn't make sense, and that's the biggest advantage that we have today.
There's a lot of tension because the old model, if you purely look at the old model, that means revenues are going to go down because less people is going to be demanded. So you could either wait for that to happen, or you could be the one pushing for that reinvention or for that transformation in the industry to happen. And that's exactly what we're doing. What we're trying to do, and earlier this year, as an example, first, let me clarify this. I'm not talking from the BPO point of view because we don't do that. Globant, we are basically an IT services company, so all my perspectives are going to be from IT services. So what we launched earlier this year is the concept of AI pods. What does that mean? Basically, what it is for the team that you had before, let's pick the example of software development. You had a team of 5 people, 5 developers and testers. What we're creating now is a concept that is less around hourly rates or number of people, that is more around like output. So it's a subscription-based model that basically generates that team that is a combination of humans and agents that generates the same output that a team of 5 people. So what I'm saying there is like AI, we're embedding AI in the way of working. It's a different way of working. It's not just like dumping AI tools to the same people that were working, but it requires a lot of upskilling from our people.
Agree completely, Juan. It's there gonna be different scenarios. Those are who just wait and see what happens with AI. Those who are users, who are avid users, and those are who are actually investing and training and being prepared to produce AIs. So one of the things that FPT is doing, we have a university who the certificates and graduates around 5,000 resources every year. And one of the things is focusing on AI, being prepared for that change in the future, which is on us, right? I mean, it's a wave, either you surf, you boogie board, or you buddy surf, right? You got to get on it either way. So I think it's something that's upon us, and we got to be completely prepared.
When they say that contractor, that resource you have, it's actually outperformed the same colleague they have in the US. Mm-hmm. And so once you start building what we call a mirrored workforce, that it doesn't matter where the location is, but they are actually producing the same output, it's making it very, very easy for clients to look at LatAm. We always need to have a champion on the board or the strategy team to actually get LatAm signed off. But what I'm finding, and I'd love for you guys to talk about this, it's not about price anymore. It's about productivity. It's about retention. It's about making these folks feel that they're not, even though we don't hire them locally, in certain markets, they still feel like they're in the same mission as the guys in North America.
What are we going to be talking about on this stage next year?
I think you're going to be seeing more companies going into the market. What he mentioned is very important, because what I mentioned, Nearshore 1.1, 1.0, and 2.0, it was on yearly basis. But also is what he said, is where you are as a company. Maybe right now I'm not on Nearshore 2.0, I need to hire a couple of people and see how it works. But once you make the decision, a lot of companies, actually one of the main things we're starting to see right now is cybersecurity. And they want to make sure, besides compliance, and that's always in the head of people, cybersecurity has become a big issue, especially if you are companies with banks and financial institutions. They want to make sure the data is secure. And that's one of the biggest concerns. So I know, especially now with AI, even worse. And I have a bunch of stories about that. But that's what I think that's what you're going to be seeing next year. Next year, people are going to talk, okay, I made the decision. Now, how I make sure that what I'm doing, my data is secure, my data it's not all over the place.
So next year, I think it's going to be much more, I think the continuous volatility, convergence in terms of capabilities, Latin America with other regions. And I think there's going to be more, let's say, materialization of the value propositions around outcomes than time and rates. I think we would be discussing if the AI buzz has really embedded into the operations and the delivery models,
Sure.
or is it still like tools around people that we're trying to figure out how it's going to end up going?